Welcome to Color Me Green, a podcast focused on making the world a greener place. So if you have the internet, I am sure you are very well aware of the news going around as of Sunday, which is when I'm recording this, all about the Burning Man Festival. I honestly don't know what the festival is or what happens there other than the burning of a huge wooden figure. So today I want to change that and learn more about what actually happens there and how it impacts the environment. During the beginning stages of research, I found articles going back and forth. On one end, the Burning Man site lists all of the ways it is all for the environment, and other sites are on the fence. So let's learn more about it and we can individually decide for ourselves. Burning Man is an annual late summer arts festival and an adventure in establishing communities. It takes place in the Black Rock Desert in northwestern Nevada. The festival began back in 1986, when two members of the San Francisco arts community, Larry Harvey and Jerry James, burned an 8-foot-tall wooden effigy of a man on San Francisco's Baker Beach to celebrate the summer solstice. Only 20 people witnessed the first event. A quick note from the Burning Man website to understand how they burned this. The man was pre-soaked with kerosene, his legs and body stuffed with newspaper and wrapped in burlap skin, also all soaked with kerosene. He was on fire and the burlap and newspaper blew away in ashes, but the man, though charred, was still standing. It goes on to state that they eventually called the cops and negotiated an agreement to let them finish burning the man. They knocked it down, sawed it in half in multiple places, threw it in a pile, and finished burning it. Over the next 4 years, Harvey and James returned with larger effigies, attracting more people. In 1990, when they attempted to burn a 40-foot-tall effigy at the beach, the police intervened. The Golden Gate Park Police had discovered the event and decided, because of the potential fire hazard to the surrounding hillside, that they could not burn the statue. The event was moved to the Black Rock Desert, where it became a Labor Day weekend tradition in early September. This shift marked the festival's permanent relocation to the desert. Over the next 2 decades, Burning Man grew significantly. It expanded to a week-long event leading up to Labor Day, with the effigy burning ritual held on the Saturday before the holiday. Attendance skyrocketed, surpassing 50,000 attendees by 2010. Each year, a temporary city with streets, villages, and camps was constructed in the desert to accommodate everyone. After the festival concluded, the city is completely removed, adhering to the festival's Leave No Trace policy. Every Burning Man festival features a unique theme announced well in advance, influencing all aspects of the event. For example, in 2000, the theme was The Body, resulting in streets named Headway and Feet Street. The camps and villages within the city revolve around relevant sub-themes, such as food, sports, learning disciplines, or arts. Active participation is a core principle of Burning Man, with attendees encouraged to contribute through art installations, camp involvement, or other creative collaborations. Unlike most festivals, Burning Man is essentially vendor-free, emphasizing self-reliance and the practice of bringing one's supplies for a week in the desert, trading for items they may need. Ultimately, Burning Man serves as an exercise challenging individuals to find a balance between cooperation, self-reliance, personal expression, and collaborative creativity in forming an artistic community. Now, with all that being said, it in the big picture sounds like a great idea and a great time, and much better than bigger, more commercialized festivals like Stagecoach and Coachella. And it probably is, but that topic is for another episode. Maybe I'll do one focused on just festivals. But when it comes to Burning Man, according to an article by The Guardian, which covered the protest, the activists' concern go beyond just the festival's carbon footprint, which reached 100,000 tons of CO2 in 2019. But they also wanted to protest that our climate emergency requires wider systematic change beyond the personally transformative experiences of self-realization that can occur at a festival. The article goes on to explain the ways that Burning Man organizers say they are making an effort to be greener. So let's jump into their sustainability reports. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I do not have a set thought on whether or not they are actually eco-friendly or not. I mean, obviously, you can only be so good when you're literally setting fire to things and gathering groups of people to party in one place, but I also mentioned I do believe that this is a better festival alternative to the bigger festivals, in some ways more than others. Looking on their website, you can go to their About Us section and look at their sustainability report. I do like that they include this because when looking into companies and what actions they are taking towards being greener, transparency is a top priority. Something I'd love to see more companies do that I actually was impressed with reading, hopefully they actually follow through with their stated commitments, was the nonprofit Burning Man Project's 2030 Environmental Sustainability Roadmap. They have this linked on their site. It links to a Medium article, which is like a website where people write things. I don't know. In this article, they have a TLDR, which means too long didn't read, that states Burning Man Project is beginning an open source approach to become carbon negative, sustainably manage waste, and be ecologically regenerative. I'm having a very hard time saying that word. I've said it like a million times already. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. By 2030. It goes on to state that the Burning Man Project, which is a nonprofit organization, supports initiatives like Fly Ranch and Burners Without Borders. While emphasizing environmental respect and principles such as leave no trace, the Burning Man community strives to minimize its ecological impact through recycling, composting, renewable energy, and carpooling. However, like modern society, Burning Man events and properties still produce emissions, contribute to landfills, and cause pollution, and sometimes negatively impact the land and environment. Next, they have what they call a draft of their outlined sustainability plan. They state that it's meant to set direction for the community and its impact on the environment, and it is not a final plan or timeline. To fully understand this plan and the alleged efforts, and I say that because other than this document, I have no proof that they are doing something or nothing. So I think it's important that we review their 5 sections. Some will get into deeper than others. The first 2 review their goals and 10-year roadmap. The last 3 will be shorter since the first 2 have the main information we're here for. So let's begin with their 3 goals. Number 1, no matter out of place. Handle waste ecologically. This would be a 2 to 4 year time frame. Their objective is to eliminate all unsustainable waste generated during Burning Man events and operations. When they collaborate to organize events worldwide, they adhere to the Leave No Trace principle throughout the event's preparation, execution, return journey, and waste disposal. This embodies both radical self-reliance and civic responsibility, which are 2 of their 10 principles. To achieve this, they must promote solutions both upstream and downstream to render landfills obsolete. Downstream efforts may involve constructing facilities like waste-to-energy plants or recycling centers. Upstream, if they refrain from purchasing or bringing items to events that would eventually become trash or end up in landfills, they can address this issue effectively. Overall, reducing consumption and making more mindful purchases will result in less waste. Goal number 2 is to foster regeneration, to generate a positive ecological and environmental impact. This is a 5 to 8 year timeline. Burning Man has the potential to pioneer solutions that empower humans to become a force for planetary regeneration. By the end of the coming decade, they aspire to contribute positively to Earth's ecology, surpassing the benefits of its non-existence. Regeneration lacks a clear blueprint, so they will engage a wide range of experts as they quantify and define this objective. Goal number 3 is to achieve carbon negativity, which is to remove more carbon from the environment than they emit, which is a 8+ year timeline. While mitigating greenhouse gas emissions and pursuing regeneration are important steps, they alone cannot combat climate change. Creating negative emissions through carbon reduction is the 3rd cornerstone of a sustainable carbon cycle. Black Rock City's estimated carbon footprint is approximately 100,000 tons. Based on extrapolations from Black Rock Labs using data from the 2007 Cooling Man model adjusted for current population figures. For context, Black Rock Labs, according to their website, is organized as a nonprofit innovation technology incubator to accelerate regenerative solutions and networked technologies at Black Rock City, Burning Man events, and the world at large. Becoming carbon negative within the next decade is an ambitious and challenging goal. Relying solely on traditional offsets and renewable energy deployment is insufficient. There is a growing array of carbon drawdown techniques, such as mangrove planting, direct air carbon capture, and carbon sequestration in rocks. These technologies are rapidly advancing as production costs decrease significantly. They intend to explore various projects and methods to prototype solutions toward achieving this objective. Next, we have the 3 phases of their plan. Number 1 is to measure and reduce impacts, consider offsets, and test pilot projects. This is a 1 to 2 year timeline. Black Rock Labs, during the next year, will lead an emissions inventory with a focus on clarity in the utilization of sustainability metrics and potential offsets. Numerous flawed emissions and offset inventories exist globally, making it imperative to establish a robust framework for quantifying negative emissions. For example, questions surrounding the counting of tree planting for carbon sequestration or provision of solar power to a community that would otherwise rely on a natural gas peaker plant must be addressed. Additionally, the subsidization of regenerative agriculture practices that eliminate the need for synthetic fertilizer will be explored. The groundwork will be laid as Black Rock Labs collaborates with staff, artists, camps, participants, external service providers, and infrastructure vendors to implement sustainable waste, pollution, and resource management practices. A series of sustainability gathering will be organized to initiate the effort within the Black Rock City community, at Fly Ranch and other relative locations. The Fly Ranch Design Challenge will be aligned with these sustainability objectives, and decentralized teams and green camps and projects will be supported in their endeavors. Next, we have the offset emissions of purchasing credits, which is a 2 to 3 year timeline. First, they discuss effective offsets. They emphasize the need to offset emissions through the purchase of credits within a timeframe of 2 to 3 years. An effective offset program, in their opinion, should focus on capturing atmospheric carbon and account for the slow of carbon cycle, which involves carbon transitioning between rocks, soil, the ocean, and the atmosphere over millions of years. They acknowledge that offsets can play a role in addressing the issue, but won't be the sole solution. They recount past experiences with standard offset programs, including one in 2017 and 2018 promoted by the Burning Man Project, led by Black Rock Labs and ID8, and note that KiwiBurn also employs offsets. Next is stimulating markets. Here they express the view that while offsets have admirable goals, they can be perplexing, and currently there isn't an effective offset program available that aligns with their specific needs. They commit to identifying and promoting resources and producers who follow best practices as viable solutions emerge, hoping to encourage the development of a legitimate offset market. Black Rock Labs has outlined 4 criteria for legitimate offsets: performance, surplus, enforceability, co-benefits such as carbon capture, habitat restoration, and water preservation, scalability to meet demand, and the ability to inspire innovation among other offset providers. And then they discuss the top issue, in my opinion, because this is the sole purpose of the festival: burn emissions. They acknowledge the environmental impact of burning art, which releases atmospheric pollution. They stress the importance of considering alternatives to burning art and envisioning a longer life for art beyond a single Burning Man event. They call upon the community to collaborate in finding ways to mitigate emissions and to be mindful and purposeful when deciding when, where, and why art is burned. The third phase is to become regenerative, which is a 4 to 10 year timeline. First, we have the multi-pronged approach. During this phase, efforts are made to cease contributions to landfills and non-regenerative, I'm going to mess up that word all the time, every time I say it. I don't know why I can't say this word. Regenerative systems. Examples of initiatives include the generation of solar, wind, and geothermal energy, as well as the production of water, through the utilization of hydroponics, aquaponics, and aeroponics. Food production is possible on the 3,800 acres owned by the organization at Fly Ranch. as well as on the 360 acres owned by the Burning Man Project on the outskirts of Gerlach. The most impactful changes that can be achieved involve generating self-sufficient power, discontinuing the use of fossil fuels, and participating in a carbon offset program that sequesters atmospheric carbon. These combined efforts aim to shift from a carbon positive state to a carbon neutral one, with the ultimate goal of becoming carbon negative. In terms of a timeline, larger sustainable infrastructure projects such as industrial-scale facilities for solar, recycling, water, wind, and geothermal energy require several years of planning. Securing partnerships and funding and obtaining permits, typically ranging from 2 to 4 years for construction. This aligns with industry standards, as the Solar Energy Industries Association estimates a 6-year construction period for large solar facilities. Subsequently, integrating the new infrastructure with power grids and systems in Black Rock City, Fly Ranch, and communities in northern Nevada may take additional years. And lastly, they have the Pilot Solar Project. A pilot solar project could be undertaken to generate solar power for Gerlach, Black Rock City, and the organization's properties. This not only addresses the global carbon cycle's need to retain carbon in the slow pool, but also underscores the Burning Man Project's commitment to environmental stewardship by seeking innovative ways to offset carbon usage. Black Rock Labs has conducted a feasibility study that offers valuable insights. Approximately 20 megawatts of solar capacity on roughly 75 acres may be required for Black Rock City. The surplus could be sold, effectively eliminating emissions from non-renewable power plants and counting it as a part of the organization's carbon offsets. For example, NV Energy is currently soliciting RFPs for the purchase of 330 megawatts of renewable energy, as of when this report was done. A comprehensive plan will be developed to guide the replication of this model for theme camps, events, or residential applications. The fourth section of the roadmap discusses the open issues, recognizing that the document is an initial foundation and that there are broader areas of future development that remain unaddressed. First, regarding the leave no trace approach, there is a need to comprehend what the next philosophical and practical framework for evaluating emissions will entail. It becomes crucial to establish geographical and emissions boundaries to maintain focus and restraint. The approach should avoid excessive detail at the outset to ensure it provides inspiration and a visionary outlook. Additionally, the consideration of materials and their life cycle is essential. Landfills are undesirable and recycling has its limitations. Stainless steel, glass, and ceramics are deemed environmentally safe, while silicone, other plastics, or plastic-lined metals are not. The transition towards reusable materials and genuinely compostable waste is imperative, as opposed to items labeled as compostable that can only be processed in industrial facilities. Despite leave no trace being the hallmark sustainability principle, there is room to involve a broader community in ongoing discussions about materials and leave no trace over an extended timeline. This presents an opportunity for learning and skill development as they chart the course ahead. Next is the context of systems framework. A holistic examination of overall system dynamics may yield wider-ranging insights and opportunities. This approach can be a motivating and engaging strategy to garner support. For example, a waste-to-energy facility could potentially fulfill a significant portion of the total baseload energy demand for Black Rock City. Alternatively, camps could coordinate transportation logistics to Black Rock City in way of carpooling, reducing vehicle-related emissions, all while decreasing the overall footprint of Black Rock City, traffic congestion, and litter. Going back to the recent news of what I read about the protesters, a lot of what I read was that they were concerned about this problem exactly, the traffic and vehicle emissions, as well mostly of private jets from celebrities and whatnot. Ownership of these initiatives is emphasized as a communal effort. Similar to the model of Black Rock City itself, the endeavor is intended to be a collaborative endeavor between the organization and the community. The Burning Man Project has an opportunity to take a leadership role by articulating its values and objectives, sharing its actions and commitments, and then extending an invitation to and encouraging the community to actively participate in finding solutions and leading the way forward. Rather than imposing mandates, the organization is setting a vision and inviting the community to be an integral part of the solution. Lastly, it is acknowledged that there will be operational and philosophical tensions. Operationally, there is often a desire for projects to be of high quality, cost-effective, and completed quickly. However, in most cases, achieving only two of these objectives simultaneously is possible, which can be frustrating. Projects can be fast and cost-effective, but may sacrifice quality. They can be high quality and cost-effective, but may take longer to complete. Alternatively, high quality and speedy projects tend to be more expensive. The challenge of speed may generate discomfort, as entities like the Burning Man Project and potential collaborators may not typically move swiftly. Philosophically, some of the solutions to environmental challenges may appear to clash with the principle of radical self-reliance. When the community collaborates to address problems collectively, questions arise about when radical self-reliance should give way to communal effort, both of which are also part of their core principles. As a closing to the article, they note the following. The Burning Man culture and Black Rock City have long been a source of inspiration and support for sustainability projects and endeavors. Earth Guardians, Recycle Camp, ID8 composting, and the Alternative Energy Zone all originated within Black Rock City. In 2006, a green working group within the Burning Man organization led to the 2007 Green Man theme, which encouraged participants to calculate their own carbon footprints. This initiative ignited the development of green technology and experimental projects unlike anything previously seen at the event. Artists began using renewable materials and incorporating environmental themes into their creations. From the roots of Burning Man culture, Black Rock Solar evolved into Black Rock Labs, dedicated to spreading sustainable technology. Burners Without Borders embraced a Leave a Positive Trace mindset, and post-event activities like playa restoration, highway cleanup, and the Leave Nevada Beautiful campaign emerged. Friends of the Black Rock organized weekly nature walks at Fly Ranch, and burners from around the world organized Leave No Trace workshops and engaged in neighborhood, beach, and park cleanup efforts. Within the Burning Man project, there exists a wealth of contributions to their journey towards sustainability and the Burning Man principles. Insights from a diverse array of experts have been pooled, and extensive research through books, articles, conferences, and late-night debates have occurred. They note that it's important to emphasize that they are more than any single individual, idea, or certainty, except for their moral obligation to reflect their principles in the broader context of the world. These principles include radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, communal effort, gifting, participation, civic responsibility, immediacy, radical inclusion, decommodification, and leave no trace. These principles serve as their guiding light. Now that we've learned the Burning Man side of things and their efforts, let's look at this from an outside perspective. This year, a small group of climate activists staged a protest by blocking a road with a 28-foot trailer, causing extensive traffic congestion. These activists, part of a coalition called Seven Circles, which includes groups like Extinction Rebellion and Rave Revolution, presented a list of demands to the organizers of the annual Burning Man event. Their demands included banning private jets, single-use plastics, unnecessary propane burning, and limiting generator use per person during the 9-day event. They also called on the organization to mobilize its members for systemic change, with a particular focus on banning private jets. Mun Chong, an organizer with Extinction Rebellion, emphasized the importance of Burning Man having a similar political impact as Woodstock did on counterculture. Chong stated that to achieve genuine systemic change, the event should start by addressing the most obvious issue: private jets. Burning Man draws tens of thousands of attendees who travel to a remote location with limited natural resources. Almost everything needed for the event is transported in, and massive structures are set on fire during the festival, releasing carbon emissions into the atmosphere. However, according to a 2020 environmental report on Burning Man organization, more than 90% of the event's carbon footprint results from the travel to and from Black Rock City. An additional 5% is attributed to gas and diesel power generators used for lighting and air conditioning. In total, each Burning Man event generates around 100,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, which is equivalent to the emissions produced by approximately 22,000 gas-powered cars in a year. Despite the moral high ground held by the protesters, their demonstration did not go smoothly. After an hour-long standoff, law enforcement officers from the Pyramid Lake Ranger Station arrived and forcefully cleared the blockade. Some protesters were handcuffed, even though they claimed to be unarmed, and at least one protester suffered a head injury. In response to the protest, Burning Man attendees, known as burners, continued on their way to the festival after the confrontation. Margaret Klein Salomon, executive director of the Climate Emergency Fund, which supports some of the groups involved in the protests, expressed disappointment in the response to the nonviolent climate protesters, emphasizing their right to peaceful demonstration and the need to protect the planet from catastrophe. The rapid growth and popularity of Burning Man over the past 3 decades reflect a broader pattern of favoring personal progress over environmental consequences. What initially started as a beach gathering in San Francisco has evolved into an event frequented by celebrities and the ultra-rich, especially tech billionaires. This transformation has led to concerns about private jet use and extravagant amenities such as exclusive camps, private chefs, and VIP parties. It's important to note that all of this infrastructure is erected for just 1 week at the end of the summer and must be completely removed in line with one of the Burning Man's founding principles, leave no trace. However, even the event's organizers were surprised by the amount of trash left behind in the desert in the previous year. The Burning Man 2022 event served as a stark reminder of the impact of climate change. During the event weekend, wildfires raged near Black Rock City, while scorching temperatures forced participants to seek refuge in air-conditioned tents and gas-powered RVs. While some solar-powered setups were present at the festival, only one camp seemed to operate entirely on solar energy. As we discussed earlier, the Burning Man organization has pledged to become carbon negative by 2030, but the feasibility of achieving this goal remains uncertain without a fundamental rethink of the event's concept. The solar-powered camp alone required an investment of $200,000 in equipment to maintain its electricity supply. Additionally, given the event's remote location, all necessary infrastructure must be transported in by gas-powered trucks. Even if electric trucks were available, recharging them for the return trip would pose a significant challenge. It's evident that substantial changes are necessary for Burning Man to maintain its current form while significantly reducing its carbon footprint. However, it remains unclear whether the event's organizers can meet their environmental sustainability goals. The recent climate protests at the event were fraught with issues, including a considerable number of idling cars in the desert, exacerbating greenhouse gas emissions and leading to injuries. Despite these challenges, the festival continued, with air conditioners and generators running until the event's end on September 4th, when the iconic Burning Man ritual will take place, weather permitting. So what are your thoughts? Let me know. I personally agree that Burning Man is definitely the better of the festivals for its efforts, but overall, I don't agree with festivals when it comes to environmental impacts in general. We just need to hope that the people in charge and festival goers choose to make choices that make a positive impact. I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of Color Me Green. New episodes come out on Wednesdays, and hopefully each one has something you can take away and learn from. If you want to request a certain topic to discuss, please feel free to message me on the show's Instagram at Color Me Green Podcast, linked in the show notes. If you loved today's episode, please make sure to leave a review and let others know what you think of the show. One of the best ways to help change the world is to share this episode with a friend and let them also learn what they can do to live more sustainably. Always remember to reduce, reuse, recycle, and live green.